it's also related, of course, to the sense that, history changed on that day. And, to make manifest this notion of historical transformation with the destruction of this scale and the activity that was required at the level that it was, I can only imagine that everybody, as you say, had a sense not just of this sublime and awful beauty, but the fact that something enormous had happened there, and that each of them was a part of undoing it, or of turning the page, or of making the next thing happen as a result of what had been done on September 11th.
You're absolutely right. The commitment on the part of the workers in there wasn't just to doing a job. It was to healing a wound. Everyone who worked in there was, and I've met hundreds and hundreds of people over the 9.5 months that I was down there, who came from far away across the country to offer their help, to be useful there too. And everyone understood that they were a team, players on a team, and they were doing something that contributed to the larger effort of healing this wound. And so there was a genuine compassion.
There's a photo in here because it comes to the nature of the wound, and the wound was very deep. You have a photograph of the scenes around the discovery of 5 firefighters in the North Tower stairwell. And the story also includes, at first, your exclusion from the scene by one of the firefighters who'd come to remove the bodies of these fallen firefighters, and your reintroduction into the scene after you'd been chased away by one of the fire department commanders who understood the point of documenting this, as painful, excruciatingly painful as it obviously was to all the firefighters there. Can we hear a little bit about that moment? And I'm sure the site itself was filled with many moments like that, the retrieval of the dead, the ceremonial removal of the dead, and also, of course, the recognition of what had happened yet again, fresh, in seeing this unfold right in front of you.
When I was down there, I would spend most days about 14 hours. So I would leave around 2 o'clock in the morning. Somewhere around 10 o'clock on that evening, I was fortunate for me, I was on Liberty Street, and I saw firemen running into the pile. Now, that was unusual. People were always in motion, but to see them running was a kind of excitement. And so, in fact, they were running from where Firehouse 10 was into the pile. And so I followed them, and we ran through the most dangerous environment, because everywhere were these rebars and steel sticking up, ready to snag you and tear you or throw you down. I mean, it was horribly dangerous. It was still so new. But I followed these guys in, and we ran up over a hill, and I came to the crest of the hill, and I looked down into a hollow, and there was this cluster of 30 to 40 firemen and policemen, and in the center was this glowing light, and all the activity was focused on this, and it was such a remarkable scene to come upon in the darkness that I made a photograph from above, and then I just went down with everybody else, and I went right up to the front, photographing all the time. And a man came out of where the light was, which basically was a void in all of the rubble. They always called them a void, And the guy came out and announced that there were 5 bodies intact in a stairwell in there, and that the stairwell was from the North Tower. We were standing in the South Tower. And when he said the stairwell indicates they're in the North Tower, there was, I don't know if it actually happened, but I have this sense memory that we all went like this, as if some hand of fate pushed us all back as we created in our mind the fall of the building with the men in it flying around in that stairwell as it came to rest down in the ruins of this other place, mixed in with it all. And it was just one of those moments where a huge tenderness came over everybody as they sort of were crushed by it. And I started to make another photograph, and some guy, a fireman, sees my helmet that's got an NYPD thing on it. It also had, a few other stickers that were on there. And he grabs me by the arm and says, "No photographs. You got to get out of here. He said, "You're NYPD." I said, "No, it's only a label." Anyway, he dragged me back up the hill, basically telling me no photograph. And I'm standing there next to a chief, and I look at the chief, and we're the same age. And I say to him, "Chief, I'm the only person in here making a record of this for the people of New York City." I said, "Do you see a fire department photographer here?" He said, "No." I said, "I need to do this for history. Now, am I going to do this or not?" And he had a paw like that, and he took me by the elbow, and he just took me all the way right back down there, and he said, "This guy stayed."